Hey everybody, what's it Fox Gaming here. So I've got a bit of an interesting build for you today. This is my long range SMG PvE build. I was inspired to make this build when I was looking at the differences between different weapons in the game, and like a lot of developers, particularly for PvP, different games out there, the way that developers typically balance their weapons is the closer range weapons will do more damage than their longer range counterparts, quite simply because it is a high risk, high reward play style. It will be pointless playing a close range weapon that puts you at a lot more risk if they did the same sort of damage as a longer range weapon. So a good example of this is, let's just have a look at the two weapons that I have equipped first of all. The SIG MPX, which is an 850 RPM SMG, versus another 850 weapon, the Police M4. I'm just going to take off the sockle off for a quick second here, just to give the same damage numbers, or at least a fair balance. And the specialisation that I have and does have SMG and AR rolled into it. The 850 RPM SIG does just over, let's just say 101k, and this only does 83k. Now, yes, I know that the SIG has 14% and this has 12%, but the numbers wouldn't be too different. So of course ARs, their main benefit is that they are a lot safer to play because they have far superior range to SMGs and far superior accuracy, therefore making headshots easy to land. But of course SMGs just, their accuracy is pretty poor. The whole point is to body shot at close range. Now the more traditional SMG builds that you will see will be Intimidate on the chest, because this gives you a very nice buff within 10 meters, 35% multiplicative damage, and that makes sense, right? Using a weapon that's close range, you might as well be rewarded for doing so. And then the backpack talents for that would either be Adrenaline Rush for group play or Bloodsucker for solo play, and you've probably seen plenty of content creators make these builds and they work really well. But in the typical What's It Fox Gaming fashion, I wanted to make something a little bit different that is as effective. And the build that I've come up with today, and I've been working on this for a bit of time now, does as much damage as those builds, but plays very differently indeed. So this build is entirely centered around the outsider talent. Now, annoyingly, I don't have the safety distance, which is actually a named SIG MPX, so it's literally the same weapon as the one that you see in front of you, but it has perfect outsider. So the standard outsider is, after killing an enemy, gain 100% optimal range and 100% optimal accuracy for 10 seconds. So just like that, we've removed all of the weaknesses of an SMG when trying to be used at long range, but we're retaining the far superior damage. And bearing in mind this is 850, I know that may not seem like a great gap in damage, 88 to 113, but you've got to think that these guns are firing about 15 bullets per second, so you're talking massive amounts of extra damage. And if we can now land shots at nearly AR range with the accuracy that we're benefiting from with the outsider talent, then you are looking at a build that, the gear pieces you can put together just like you would an AR build, but you're just going to be getting way more damage. And honestly, this actually plays really well. So let's go through the build pieces, why I've chosen the ones I have. I've basically tried to squeeze as much damage out of this as possible, as we don't have a damage talent on our weapon. And yeah, honestly, it performs really well. I'll show you in a heroic mission shortly. So we have one piece Sokolov for the SMG damage, and we've rolled, like every piece I have here, for the most part into critical hit chance and damage. Now SMGs do come intrinsically with critical hit chance built into them, so you can afford to lose a bit of chance, and you may notice I've got the Sawyer's knee pads on there that don't have any chance, and we've still been able to hit the cap. So that's the one piece Sokolov for the mask. We're running 3-piece Providence because they give us a couple of named items that really help with this build, and this is starting to look a lot like a stationary AR LMG build. 15% headshot damage works really well for the closer range kills, and then we've got the crit hit chance and damage to boost our damage just overall long and close range. We're running the named sacrifice chest piece, perfect glass cannon, that gives us a multiplicative damage buff of 30%, very, very close to Intimidate. And we're running the named backpack that gives us the gift that gives us perfect vigilance, 25% additional damage for 3 seconds. Of course, with the traditional SMG builds, the backpack talent would not be a damage talent at all. Now yes, we can lose this backpack talent, we can lose the damage that this grants us if we take let me reword that. We can lose the additional weapon damage that this backpack talent gives us by taking damage, so you could easily swap this out for Composure, which works really well with the Sawyer's build, or even Bloodsucker, Unstoppable Force if you're playing solo. So you don't have to have Vigilance, but I wanted it for this particular build. Once again, you can see these are rolled into critical hit chance and damage, and my third piece is Providence Gloves, which again rolled in exactly the same way. For our holster, we're using Grupo because it gives us 15% critical hit damage, and as it's very easy to hit the chance cap on SMGs, we want to put as much crit damage in as possible. And then the final piece is the exotic Soyuz knee pads that actually gives us 30% additional weapon damage just for being in cover or standing still for 10 seconds, and we retain that 30% for 10 seconds after moving. Now this makes for a little bit of a clunky playstyle. Soyuz on paper are the best damage buffing game for knees, far greater than even Fox's Prayer, but if you don't like how Soyuz play, that's not a problem. These can be swapped out for a second Sokolov, which will give us 15% more critical hit damage, a fantastic choice, or Fox's Prayer. So it is entirely up to you which of these versions that you play. Apologies if you can hear some building work in the background. They're doing a lot of fibre installation on my street at the moment, so sorry if you can actually hear that. So don't worry too much if you don't want to run Soyuz. They're not a necessity. You could definitely just run Foxes or a second Sokolov here and it would work nearly as well. I just wanted to showcase that you can get a huge amount of damage from this particular build. We're running Gunner for our specialisation because this gives us ammo regen, and an 850 SMG can go through its ammo pretty quickly, but we also get the nice handling buff of 10% to keep our stability really high as well, and of course improve our reload speed. What I have done with the gun itself, because we've been able to hit the chance cap, is I've actually put on the stability mod on the base just here. Now you can of course have the chance mod if you want it, and if you ran it with demolitionists you can get even higher chance. So if your gear isn't as well rolled as mine and your watch level isn't as high, again there's a lot of flexibility with this build. If we look at my stats, I'm at 60% critical hit chance and 178.8 critical hit damage, so pretty atypical. A lot of well-rolled SMG builds can easily hit 180, anything up to 200k really. Of course we have the Soyuz in here, so we're losing that critical hit chance and damage on these, but you know that's more than made up for the fact that one, we get some extra survivability having a blue item in our build as opposed to just 6 reds, and two, it is giving us that 30% weapon damage. To help us stay alive and negate the fact that we are using glass cannon, which, you know, is, I don't think it's the best damage talent in the game. Yes, in terms of raw damage it is, but the 60% incoming is pretty hairy at the best of times. But to help out with that, we're running the decoy just to keep some heat off of us, and then we're going to run the res hive because yes, you will go down with a glass cannon build no matter how good you are. Sometimes a grenade will hit you, a sniper will come in and change targets to you and you're not expecting it and just one shot you, so just bear that in mind. So let's try and demonstrate how outsider works. We know it gives us a lot of extra range. We'll check out the range stats on these here. So let's get this to 50, and we'll put this on. Oh, no, I just guess we'll go 5. Actually, let's just change these to something a bit more tanky. There we go. So 556k crit at this range. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what. Let's wait for Soyuz to fully kick in because we'll get some skewed damage numbers otherwise. So we've got Vigilance active. I'm just going to wait for Soyuz to go right up to cap. So we're hitting 673k there, and just for comparison, an AR 538, so quite a fair bit lower. So 635 there. Now let's have a look at what it does on this. 238, as we expected, considerably lower. It's an SMG, right? So we know it's 635 for this range. Let's try that again. 614, so nearly the same damage, and that target is 50 meters away. We've just hit 614 versus 631, so very, very similar damage numbers for a target that is absolutely miles away. And, you know, with the handling buff that you get, I mean, I didn't have outsider proc there, but with the handling buff that you can get, sorry, I think I did have it procced actually, you can very reliably hit shots from this range. So all of a sudden we're looking at a build that's, you know, very similar to an AR build, but it's doing way more damage than an AR ever could, even at those extreme ranges. And honestly, it plays so well. Let's load into a mission and see exactly what that looks like. We'll go for an invaded mission because I might actually get lucky and maybe even capture it on the stream. But you know, you do get named items. I think you do actually from the invader missions. I'm pretty sure you get 1 from the missions and 2 from the from Tidal Basin. Have a look. Yes, named item, there you go. So if you look on the left hand side there under the 440 XP reward, 1 named item, and then I think Tidal Basin gives you 2, and that's why it's actually worth running these missions every week, by the way, if you're running low on named items. It's not tied to the targeted loot though, so it's not guaranteed to be, or more likely to be an LMG. It's completely separate to that. Okay, let's have a little play with this and see how it performs. So we'll get it on heroic. This is of course a solo mission, so I could definitely use Unstoppable Force here. Oh whoops, I forgot they spawn in. Right there. So we're going to wait for my soils to build up first. In fact, no, we won't. Let's just get started with it. So look at that melt. It's ridiculous. That's only with like half of soils procced. And this is what I like about SMGs. They do such big damage, and you know, by using this build, you're basically removing the weakness of the weapon, and so you can use it at all ranges. And yeah, honestly, I absolutely love it. It just performs so well. Now, this will be a really good test because we do have some heavies here. So it's, what you can do is run an AR for your secondary to get them low if they're all at range like this, and then swap to your SMG just to close the kill. Luckily, we have these guys here, so these are going to rush into us. Yeah, this is probably going to hurt, so I'm going to get that out.
Medical assistance needed.
Oh, I just avoid that, never mind. Heal off. Now we've got the extra range. Look at those crit numbers.
Vital signs critical.
Now obviously with the glass cannon build you are going to be taking a lot of damage here, so I'm still not convinced that it's best in slot. Is that going to hit me? Yes, with perfect accuracy, but because we have soils on, you notice we didn't get knocked out of cover there? I've got to be quite careful here actually. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to phone this guy just stop firing at us. Make his armour. Oh, the melt is insane! Because we're getting all that extra weapon thing. I love it. Look at that. It's just, it's incredible. This is an SMG and we're shooting these guys from like 30 odd meters away. Dead. So you're honestly talking, you know, not quite AR levels of accuracy, but certainly AR levels of range. But with considerably more damage with this build. So yeah, you know, try out and let me know what you think. Glass cannon I'm still a bit sort of umming and ahhing on. I tried it with braced, which was fantastic because it turns it into an absolute laser and it's, you know, really powerful. So braced is really good. Spotter is quite viable as well. Unfortunately the SIG doesn't have the underbarrel, but you could use something like a UMP which does have that long underbarrel rail. Even focus works on this build. You could get 60% additional damage just by using focus. So, you know, your chest talent you can be flexible with. Glass cannon, I don't actually rate at the moment. You know, I don't think with the level of difficulty that exists in the game today with heroic content that you actually need glass cannon anymore. But I appreciate that it is still very popular, and I wanted to squeeze as much damage out of this build as humanly possible. So there's that side of proc. You can see at the side of my gun now on that right hand side. Insta dead. Look at that. They don't stand a chance. That guy was miles away. So if this was the more traditional SMG build, I'd have to run up those stairs to try and kill those guys, and you know, that isn't always viable. So we've still got the maximum stacks from Sawyers. It's a shame he's behind cover here. We're going to struggle to melt this guy. Focus chain again. 635k per crit. This is without. Oh no, outside it was still proc. Let's see what it is now without it proc. Oh, it's still the same. So we're at a good range. Okay, that's good. Okay, we're struggling to hit him up there. He's not been moving, is he? So we're still within the same range there, even though we didn't have outside of proc, but because of course it's an SMG, it's just absolutely melting them. Wow, my accuracy is amazing!
Can't take more of this.
You will have to excuse my gameplay in this game. I've not actually been playing that much Division lately. I've been playing a lot of other games like Destiny and Apex, so I'm a little bit sloppy with my aim in this game at the moment, so I do apologise for that. But you know, I say this in pretty much every video, I am pretty average at best when it comes to this game. So if I can come up with a good build, and you know, one of you guys that's most likely a better player than me tries it, you'll have a lot more success than I will. And if the way I demonstrate it seems quite bad, one thing I always ask is just try it for yourself first. Oh, where is he going?
UAVs are up.
Hell no.
Detected.
It just decimates.
Agent down.
Oh, just got one shot by a doggo. You'd love to see it. Never mind, he's nearly dead. Yes, I'm still not convinced about glass cannon. That's probably the one thing that I would switch with this build, but I think I've already proved that you really don't need to have
Immediate medical assistance
a
needed.
weapon-based talent in order to perform well in heroic content. And this is a Black Tusk mission, which are typically viewed as harder. Obviously, because I'm running Soys, I'm having to stay in this one place, and this is probably another thing that I would potentially switch and you may want to do yourself. Oh, get wrecked! Now we've got that outside of 10 props.
Lost the UGV.
Stick it out.
Can't move.
He's suppressed. We're going to get a foam grenade on him. Another reason why I really like. Wait, where is that landing?
Can't take much more.
Compatible RFID.
Easy melt. And of course we get the armour,
That's what you
10%
need.
armour on kill
Grab that
from
key
this
card.
particular build as well. Now yes, there may be some changes that are made with this build when TU11 launches. You know, that as of the release of this video, this is TU 10.1. So, you know, there are some new gear sets coming out and different weapons and so on that might potentially improve this build. But honestly, if you are a little bit bored of the game, I mean, I will be honest, that's kind of the stage that I'm at. I'm just trying to come up with different builds that are using underrated talents that I think can really work. And hopefully I've proved that Outsider, in conjunction with a stationary high DPS build, works absolutely fine. The few things I might change are glass cannon, because it is a bit hairy using glass cannon, and Sawyers. You know, you may just want to go for the double Sokolov and potentially change this for spotter, unbreakable. Braced actually works phenomenally well. I don't know if you've seen my previous brace videos, but just to quickly showcase it now, brace does give you 45% weapon handling whilst in cover. Watch the centre of the crosshair. Yeah, it's way more stable, so Braced is a really good choice here, and definitely one that I would consider potentially swapping out. But yeah, that's the build. You know, as you can see, it does significant weapon damage from crazy ranges, and you don't need to play an SMG build up close if you don't want. I've tried it in the past. It works quite well in solo content where there are fewer enemies. Where there are a lot of enemies in group play, I find that it falls quite short, and being out in the open like that does expose you to a lot of damage and aggro. Sitting in the back like this kind of helps to remove and negate those weaknesses of a traditional SMG build. So that'll be the end of the video. I'm not going to go any further because hopefully I've showcased that well enough as it is. Thank you very much for watching through to the end if you did. Thank you again for the continued support of the channel, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Peace!